Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Strikes have become a permanent feature in the nation's tertiary education system, with the university community as the worst hit. Now, this interference with the academic calendar and graduation time frame has brought about endless debates. The 2022 ASUU warning strike, which commenced on February the 22nd, with a 4-week ultimatum which lapsed without compromise on the renegotiation of the 2009 federal government ASUU agreement and deployment of University Transparency and Accountability Solution, was extended by additional 8 weeks. Tonight, NTA Tuesday Live will explore issues surrounding the highly disturbing situation that is now inconveniencing parents and exposing students to all kinds of social issues and the impact on growth and development.
The university system is not new to industrial crisis since the formation of Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, and other unions in the universities in 1978. Before then, Nigerian Association of University Teachers had existed since 1965. From 2013 till date, the union had embarked on a 6-month strike in 2013, while in 2014 and 17 it went on a warning strike but was apprehended by government. In the year 2020, however, ASUU went on an indefinite strike which paralyzed academic activities for 8 months, even though the rule of no work, no pay as contained in Section 43 of Trade Union Act was in effect at the time. Salaries were later paid in trade trenches for not performing academic activities.
But I want to tell you, everything we had in terms of payment of EAA, the Academic Allowance, revitalization fund promised them in 2020 agreement were religiously executed. That to the extent that aggregately 92 billion was paid in the year 2021.
The bone of contention this time around is the 2009 agreements, which was renegotiated in 2020, but still having some gray areas yet to be fully addressed. The government in 2017 made it mandatory for all MDAs to migrate to Integrated Personal Payroll and Information System (IPPIS), but the universities complained it did not capture their peculiarities and requested to be allowed to be on University Transparency and Accountability Systems (UTAS). However, the platform, according to some players, did not pass the integrity test.
The university system say they don't capture sabbatical, they don't capture their peculiarities. So, we now ask them, after President has spoken with us, let us look at UTAS because it's homegrown. Do the tests, meet that. If you satisfy the test, you can come and have a handshake with IPs. In the spirit of Executive Order 3 and 5, homegrown things should be encouraged. I'm a supporter of that, and the SGF. So that's where we are. The first test, they wrote a report, leader wrote a report and said that on user acceptability tests, this is the percentage. Because it's the users that will come and say we can use this system. Boss has a university and everything. So this is where we are on that. They scored 90-something%. On integrity and on credibility tests, to avoid hacking. We either say it's failed. As you said, no, we didn't fail. So as we were discussing that, ASUU went on strike.
While the negotiation was ongoing to address the gray areas, according to government, ASUU began a 1-month warning strike, which started on February 14, 2022, which has since snowballed beyond the initial 4 weeks. the non-teaching staff is not left out, as it also embarked on a 3 weeks warning strike, which might also extend beyond the given time, if not quickly made.
When we went to go on strike in November, direct interceded, and we gave them the opportunity. We call on well-meaning Nigerians and stakeholders in the university system and beyond to prevail on government to honor the agreement it freely entered into with the Joint Action Committee of NASU and SANU. The sharing of the end allowance should be based on templates generated from signed agreements of each union and not on the number of persons in each union or personnel costs, and that subsequent disbursement should be union based.
To find lasting solution to the impasse, the Minister of Education, Adamu, constituted a 7-man committee to renegotiate in realistic and workable terms all issues in contention by ASUU and other unions.
The committee, which is expected to review the draft proposed federal government ASUU agreement, has the following terms of reference. 4 of them. Number 1, it is to liaise and consult with all relevant stakeholders in order to finalize the position of the federal government on the issues in the draft proposed negotiated agreement. Number 2, to renegotiate realistic and workable terms the 2009 agreement with other university-based unions.
While this is ongoing, students in Nigerian universities are at the receiving end as the academic plan is on hold. Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
Well, that report by Emmanuel Ayemiro sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Dr. Christopher Piwuna is Vice President of ASUU, that's the Academic Staff Union of Universities. He's also of the Department of Psychiatry, University of Jos. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Let me also welcome to this program Dr. Makulu Hassan. He's National President of Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Right. And we're also joined tonight by Professor Shuaibu Oba Abdurrahim, OFR, a former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ilorin and former Executive Chairman of the Federal Character Commission. Thanks for being here with us.
To be here.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, we're joined tonight by the Honorable Minister of State Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajuba. He joins us via Zoom. Minister, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So, good evening, Nigerians.
All right. Well, at the appropriate time, we'll get to remind you of that part of the program that's interactive, where you can call in and be part of the discussion in the studio. But we'll leave it for now. When we get there, we'll acquaint you once more with the procedure. But for now, let's start off. And, Minister, if you're there and you can hear me clearly, let's try and put this in context. The question of strikes, especially by academic staff universities, it's one thing that has gone on and on and on, and it seems to be an endless situation. What is the matter?
Thank you, Cyril, and good evening, fellow panelists and Nigerians. Truly speaking, the continued strike in our tertiary institutions is a huge problem, both for us as a government and to us as a people. We do actually regret it, and we do not think there is any reason for it to be sustained. Over the years, somebody counted since 1992 the number of strikes that had bedeviled us, and it's quite a bit. But regardless of who is at fault or who is where, it is clear that ourselves and ASUU are speaking the same language. We all want the best for the country. We want our tertiary institutions to be properly run. We want the best for our students and the best for Nigeria. What has happened is really a funding difficulty, because while government and ASUU agrees on all the things that they normally will go on strike for, the bottom line has been with the resources that are available to execute them. Whilst the ideas are good and all noble, and everybody is working towards the same purpose, we want the best for our lecturers, we want them to be world class, we want our universities to be world class, we want all of that, but we don't have world class resources. Nigeria is a very poor country. And over the years, a lot of rot has come in. But we have tried the best we can within the limits of these resources to try to manage all the things that ASUU has raised. We know that these challenges are unending. But the position we've taken at the Ministry of Education is to continuously engage ASUU and all other tertiary education players to appreciate that it's not lack of will, it is not the lack of understanding. It is essentially the lack of all the resources to do all the things that we think alongside them are needful. If you look at all the issues that ASUU has raised over the past couple of weeks in respect to the current strike, they reside mainly in how much we have not been able to meet with the end academic allowances, the value of pay to lecturers, the needs assessments that have been done in the universities and need to be funded, the use or otherwise of a payment platform, or that we have not done the visitations that we're supposed to do or brought the papers the way we're supposed to do them. But in all essence, we have not disagreed with ASUU on any of them. If indeed in 2009 or coming all the way to 2014, before the last regime left and they had agreed to fund the 1.2 trillion position with the universities as a date, that is actually commendable and that kind of funding is needed. However, Nigerians know that this government has tried a lot of times to raise monies, even with debt instruments, to build infrastructure. But education is considered a social infrastructure. And therefore, borrowing money to fund it from external sources has not been actually forthcoming. So we've had to manage them from within resources, within what Nigeria earns. And if you finish debt servicing, and look at what the national budget is like, over the years, the percentage that we and all of them believe that should go to education, yes, as a quotient of how much we have as a country, is not as high as it should be. But we're continuing along those parallels, and we believe that we should be working. What I disagree with, or what I think maybe many people disagree with, is whether the strikes are the solutions to these incessant problems. Because we think we should actually continue learning, even in these difficult times, even in the absence of these resources, with whatever is available to us. We must continue to manage these resources alongside our brothers at ASUU and let them see exactly what it is the government is doing. So it's not really a we versus them kind of approach. And that is why the Ministry of Labour, whose responsibility it is to negotiate wages and has engaged consistently in trying to, there's no trade dispute between us. The Ministry of Education are not their employers. They're employed by the federal government.
Okay, thank you, Minister. It's not often you hear that Nigeria is a poor country. I think more often what we hear is Nigeria is a very rich country, and perhaps it's with that in mind that you do find so many things happening, and yes, competing demands. But let's turn to ASUU, and here the issues are mainly in the public view. But again, fundamentally, what are these things that have dragged on from 2009 until now? And Nigerians are worried. I mean, people in government are no strangers to the university system. In fact, all through this period, we have had academics who have become office holders in government. And so Nigerians are still amazed that can you not get to a reasonable agreement with even your former colleagues?
Well, thank you very much. And it's, well, I think you've answered part of what I wanted to say in regard to what Honorable Minister of State said about whether we're a poor nation or a rich nation. But at the onset of this administration, the first industrial action we embarked on, the current Minister of Education, Mala Adamu, came out and said that government is wrong, that they are sorry, that they've not kept, to the promises. The promises as contained in the 2009 agreement, the issue of funding of public education, tertiary education in particular, issues about our welfare, the law, NUC law, JAM law, review of all those laws, and some other miscellaneous issues contained in the 2009 agreement. Over time, more issues have come up. Issue of proliferation of universities. It appears as if the NUC wants to make sure, or the government wants to make sure they have more private universities in Nigeria than public universities, or indeed state and federal governments are competing among themselves as to who would have the highest number of universities. So the proliferation of universities came in as one of the issues. Issue of governance, in the universities, where state governors can sit down in government house and appoint vice chancellors, appoint deputy vice chancellors, appoint registrars, as if the university do not have a law. So those are some of the issues that have continued to cause us to engage government over time. And most times we've been unable to reach an understanding with government, or indeed we reach an agreement with government on some of these issues, and then they renege, they won't keep to it. The Honorable Minister talked about continuous engagement, and that they have continually engaged the union. That, I'm sorry to say, is not correct. The Ministry of Education is not really engaging the union in resolving these issues.
Well, from what he says, you don't have a trade dispute with the Ministry of Education.
I'm very shocked.
You're employees of the federal government, not the Ministry of Education, and there's the Ministry of Labor and Employment that has the responsibility to negotiate these issues.
One of the core problems that we have in this country is buck passing. People just pass the buck to the other. This is the first time I'm hearing, and I'm sure Nigerians are surprised, that the Ministry of Education is saying they are not our employers. I mean, our councils are inaugurated by the Minister for Education. All that we do is in the Ministry of Education. So to say that they do not have any dispute with us, they have no problem with our union, or, I mean, it's strange to me, and I'm sure it's strange to many Nigerians, that the Ministry of Education is saying, one, they are not our employers, and that two, they do not have any dispute with us. That is the parent ministry. And, just last week, the Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Senator Chris Ngige, came out to say he is not the one that should address these issues, that we should go to our parent ministry. In fact, he suggested that we should picket the Ministry of Education, our parent ministry. So with this,
the Minister of Labor suggested you should picket
the Ministry of Education, and make sure that they attend to us, and that he wasn't the minister in charge of our issues. So when you see all this cacophony of voices and divergent views that is supposed to be, government that is supposed to be talking in unison, it is clear, very clear, that education is not a priority to our leaders.
Okay, we'll return to the issues, but let's go on to Dr. Makulu Hassan, the president of NASU. Now, this is a considered general opinion that once one union moves, it follows that others, associated unions as well, will move. ASUU goes on strike, and everyone begins to expect that NASU, SANU will not. Yes, and it always happens that way.
Well, I hope the VP here has started it very well. The bone of contention started from the 2009 agreement. That in that agreement, there was an understanding there that after every three years, we are expected to do a review. And you cannot calculate between 2009 to now, how many years do we have? And how many of the three years have we gotten from 2009 till now? So the problem we have in the system is the government reneging on agreement that they willingly entered into. I'm happy that the Minister of Education for State is with us today because he described the union on campus as people who are very wicked for being on strike. Now we had, I am the chairman of the Joint Action Committee of the NASU and SANU. So I'm now speaking in the capacity of the national president of NASU and the joint chairman of NASU and SANU. Now, it's not because if ASUU goes on strike, we follow. No. You can look at within the space of time. ASUU had gone on strike for almost 1 month. We were still negotiating. I tell you that we gave the government 21 days ultimatum to look at our issues. Nothing was done. We wrote again. Nothing was done. It was after 2 weeks of warning strike that they managed to acknowledge that they have received our letter. And now we are now in the 4th week of strike. Nobody has called us. So it is not as if we are strikemongers. No, it is because the government, I hope what they want to hear is strike.
Well, ASUU has laid bare some of these agreements.
Yes.
That's with regards to ASUU demands.
Good.
What are the demands of
Beautiful.
NASU and SANU?
Thank you very much. It will interest you to know that every demand we put before government spring from 2009 agreement. Now, first, let me bring out the issue of IPPIS. Is one of our major problems that we are on strike now. Now, I was among the committee with the government representatives. They called us to meeting and told us that we should join them to fight corruption in the university system. That IPIS is going to fight corruption. And we felt, okay, even as unionists, it's not as if we are averse. So if we see a government fighting corruption, I hope we can join hands with them. You find out that at the last meeting, it was only NASU, SANU, and NAT that agreed, let's give this government a trial. ASUU say they will not because they don't believe in the capacity of this government to fight corruption through IPs. And we went into IPs. The first month, they say they were test running, our people were receiving haphazard salaries. The second month, they were test running, union dues were not paid. The third month, they were test running, third-party deductions. Because workers take little loan from bank to survive. So union will go and get this bank for them, and banks are not Father Christmas. They were cutting our people's throat anyhow. We find out that, yes, ideally it's a good thing that we have gone in. The government will know that we are not averse. But we have tested it and we find out that as IPs has not only failed integrity test, it has failed morality test. And so it should be dropped. That is one. Number two, we're talking about earn allowances. Now, government try to do what we call divide and rule. ASUU have their demand. ASUU will go to government and say, give us this. Other union will go to government and give us this. Government will now put 10 naira on the table. The last one, they shared. They said, okay, so much has been given. They were going to call ASUU and all the stakeholders to decide on how it will go. When we left, we never had anything again. The next thing was sharing formula, which we call it very evil.
Okay.
Now, we were talking of minimum wage arrears. I know that the staff in NTA here, you have enjoyed your own years before now. As I speak with you now, all the staff in the university system, not only the non-teaching staff, we've not taken. So these are part of the problems that we are on strike for currently.
Okay. There's this issue. You talked about IPs having failed an integrity test.
Yes.
Again, from reports gathered around, quite recent, it would seem that the system that's been suggested by the unionists for payment has also failed an integrity test. How do you respond to that?
Of course. What do you expect? We have tested IPs practically. We have used IPs to receive salary, and we know that it cannot measure up. Have we tested this one? And it will interest you to know that even the non-teaching staff have developed UTAS. And our government acknowledge that they have received our letter, but they have not invited us. Test the two and let us know which is better than IPs.
Okay, well, we'll return to you, but let's come to Professor Shaibu Abdurrahim, Vice Chancellor himself. And there are so many things I'm sure you'd like to tell us. And we have at the back of our minds that to a large extent, the University of Ilorin has been insulated from a lot of these issues. And we would like to know how.
Thank you very much for asking me to be here. Well, let me have an issue so that we should take out the issue of the University of Ilorin out of this. That belongs to a different set of criteria and relationships. I'm interested in the things that have been said here. But I'm sitting here like a Nigerian citizen who had been in the field before. And I must say, it's extremely distressing to me as a person that almost 20 years, year in, year out, there has been this repeated cycle of strike, negotiation, default, and strike again. And it's the same recurrent thing like a swing chair. It's a bit difficult for me now as a parent, don't count me as a unionist or anything like that, to take an interest in issues. One, what does government want to do with the university system? What does it want to do with education? If it requires that there must be a university system, it must be viral, it must be competitive, it must be of international standard. There are things that government must do to achieve this. They must work together with the unions. Yes, that's all right. But I find that instead of government and the union sitting down and doing the same thing differently, it appears it's like a recurring decimal week. I, for instance, look at a situation where during the course of strikes and negotiations in the past, there have been issues of defining the relationship between government and the university community. We have the role of the governing councils, that of government. I'm interested in what the minister has just said, that the Minister of Labour advised the unions to go to the Minister of Education. They say, go back to. Yeah. What exactly is the role of government? Who's responsible? And I think, and I begin to believe, that it is time in the interest of Nigeria that government should call for real, honest discussions about our education system. It's not just about strike. It's about many things that are deeper than strikes and individual interests. And until government sits down and draws up an education Marshall Plan to really sit down and look at critically what the issues are. Over the years, we've been talking about autonomy, this, autonomy, that. What has become of the issue of autonomy? Because if you are talking about real autonomy for the universities, you will not be talking about one minister saying, go to that minister, and that one saying, go to that minister. Government must really sit down and decide and let Nigeria know what it wants to do with the universities, along with the universities. But I'm saying that the union leaders themselves are parents, aren't they? All of these borders on who is at the receiving end. I see two persons who are the real victims of what is going on, the parents and the students. And it reminds me of the play of one of our compatriots, another radical thinker, Kolya Motosho, who published a play in 1972. It's called The Combat. And if you look at the scenario in that play, it's like what is playing out now. Briefly speaking, there are two men fighting for the paternity of a baby from a common girlfriend. And while it was preparing its own argument to say, this is my right to the paternity, they were busy doing that. They neglected the pregnant one, ignore the baby, until the baby dies. And the argument still continues. I don't want Nigeria to be like that. We must sit down. Government must take the bull by the horn. Call people to round table and decide. I'm more interested in the autonomy issue, for instance. Let government say something, address the unions on the issue of autonomy. Let's face that once you can sort out the issue of autonomy, we'll be able to get rid of strikes.
Prof, you've probably heard the minister a short while ago say the government is not averse to discussions and efforts to improve the university system. That the point of disagreement is that strike is the way to achieving it. What do you say to that?
Well, I think when you talk to government on one side, we'll talk to our colleagues on the other side. They also believe that strike is not the solution. But I'm saying government must take the initiative, change the direction of our argument, because it has the right to do, the power to do so, because it keeps the pulse. We can actually deal with this by what I said. The government should face the challenge of education in modern day Nigeria, in the 21st century. Okay. What kind of education it wants. And if it does want the kind of education that will be beneficial to the children of the poor, it must be ready to lead. And the unions cannot go ahead and say, form. I'm just saying, we need an education Marshall Plan in this country, which will look critically at what we have and see and apportion responsibilities and whatever in the relationship between the universities, the academic staff, the supporting non-academic staff, and more importantly, the student population. What exactly is the share? And what is the concern of the parents? That's what worries me.
It is with the student population you talked about in mind that I say we appreciate your wanting to distance the University of Ilorin from all of this, say it belongs to a different climate. But at some point in this program, Prof, would return to it and find out how and why it is not the same and why it is in a different climate. We'll come to that because you've just brought in the other side of it, that the student population are key in all of this. Yes, and the unionists are also parents. And
sure.
Nigerians would say, does it please you that your children and wards are sitting home for months on end regularly? Isn't there another way to do it? Okay, the minister says strike is not. Which other way? Have you tried any other way?
But first of all, it's not just that we are parents and we have children in the universities as well. We are also students.
Right.
Our wives are either doing their master's degree or their PhD. So in our homes, it's not just the children, but we go through it as well. When there is a strike, Prof knows, AMPC wouldn't meet. No promotion. So our promotions are also delayed. Our assessments are delayed. So all of us, it's not just our children. But that's not to say that students are the main victims of this situation. We acknowledge that. But we've tried this thing. Prof is talking about the Marshall Plan. Prof knows. Gray Longe Commission. He brought out a Marshall Plan for 10 years. 1991 to 2000. What came of it? The Babs Fafunwa report 1984. What came out of the Babs Fafunwa report? The Ogundeko report. What came out of it 1987? The Ashby Commission, even pre-independence. All this. Nigeria is not in short supply of solutions to our problems. We're in short supply of courageous people, people who want to solve the problem, people who are honest and want to address these problems. Just before I go to the other issue, you talked about UTAS failing the integrity test. The person who said UTAS has failed the integrity test is the DG of NIDA. That was re-echoed by the Minister for Communication and Digital Economy. The interesting thing for Nigerians to know is that there was a report by NIDA that was forwarded to the Minister for Communication, and that report was forwarded to the Minister of Labour, in which UTAS clearly passed over. There were 682 tests that were carried out on UTAS. UTAS passed about 524. So let's not go into the numbers and percentage, but the point is this, and my president has made that point. It would appear that the Director General of NIDA did not even read the report that NIDA, his agency, sent to his minister and sent to the Minister of Labour, because if he did, he would know that there was nothing like failing any integrity test. And we have gone back to them the second time, based on at the instance of the Minister of Labour, to conduct another test in which UTAS, completely homegrown, scored 99.3%. The report was not our report. It is NIDA's report. So all these things about failure and not, is just an attempt to kill the baby before it's even giving birth to.
All right. Apart from our discussions here in the studio, we also have a number of reports, and we'll start off by taking the first of those reports now. This one is by Dauda Mohammed from Kaduna.
As universities across the country are under lock and key, the situation has put sizable percentage of students in jeopardy. Among them is Abdul Hamid Salih Umar, a final year medical student of Kaduna State University. The ongoing strike has slowed down his vision of completing studies on schedule to serve his country.
My plea here is, as we should make a better consideration, federal government should make the best of all consideration, which I made mention earlier, which is the political will. And then they should find a reconciliation point where they will all come back, negotiate, and call off the strike for us to proceed with our academic careers and training.
The industrial action embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities has been on for some time now. While some students have been at home idle, others have taken the bull by the horn by engaging in entrepreneurship. Farouk Mohamed Lawal is a political science student of Kaduna State University and has resorted to vocational skills acquisition instead of idleness. He said hope is not lost as federal government and ASUU will reach an amicable resolution of their differences.
You have something doing, you can be self-reliant. Even if you have finished secondary school and university, you can continue doing your handwork as a job. You will not relax until the government give you a job. You can start your any entrepreneurship or any small business. By God's grace, it will help you to create some awareness, like job awareness. As you can see, as my colleagues are here, we are just here working on some issues here.
Stakeholders say resolving the impasse is key to reassuring Nigerians of government commitment to the education sector.
It's when you fund education, it's when you have quality education that can develop this country. In fact, it is generally accepted that human capital development is the sure development that everybody wants in the world.
We could make a law that all public and civil servants who should have their children in the public institutions. I think that would avoid that.
When you have students, or let me say children of school age, and yet they cannot go to school, definitely the system is going to suffer. And you know, there's serious security implication for that.
For now, prayers among parents and students is that bringing the strike to an end remain critical to university system in the country. Dauda Mohammed.
All right, our next report is by Eukaria Ugu from Enugu.
Incessant strike actions of university lecturers now seems to be a norm and the last resort through which they press home their demands from governments. The Academic Staff Union of Universities embarked on 1 month burning strike on 14th of February this year to demand for better condition of service that agreed with federal government in 2009. As a result, series of meetings the leadership of the union held with federal government to that effect ended in deadlock, and ASUU extended the strike by 2 months, thereby putting academic activities on hold. The protracted strike actions has automatically distorted academic calendar.
The brain needs to keep on working. It's not like a computer. If you shut down the computer, you can always put it on at any time. You get, but then if you relax, practice makes perfect. So once you relax, you are left redundant at that moment. So the impact is really much. Okay, me personally, it has affected me in a whole lot of ways because I've been in 100 level since 2019, and I just entered 200 level. We are still taking our exams. We are still happy we've entered 200 level, taking our exams. They called the strike, and after the strike, we are moving into the exams immediately without anything being taught. Nothing was actually taught before the strike.
About 2 million young people released into the community, and then these 2 million, uncontrolled energies, so you have rape, you have armed robbery, because these are young people who work with their peers, and there's a lot of peer group influence. Most of these young people sometimes begin to have access to particularly their mother's vehicles, and they drive off, not with proper training, and then you begin to have auto accident, you begin to have unwanted deaths and unwanted expenditure.
Experts say poses a threat to the society and national life as they cannot contribute meaningfully to the growth of the nation's economy.
The government must regard education as a top priority. Educational staff should not see strike as the first course of reaction against government reneging on their promises.
It is the views of many that education be prioritized in Nigeria in line with the international best practices. In Enugu, Eukaria Ugu.
All those two reports are laying bare the issues at stake. But one other aspect I'd like to look at, it's been suggested, and I'm sure you've heard about that, if you were to take a critical look at some of these agreements that have been entered into between the government and the unions, you would at some point realize that it is impossible to meet those demands. It's been said that sometimes these negotiations get to the stage where both parties agree, knowing full well that it would be virtually impossible to implement.
How, sir? With due respect, I hope what we have is the willingness on the part of the government. Let me tell you, most of the time when we go for these negotiations, you see core ministries will send assistant director to go and negotiate. Assistant director will talk with, or you will go back. You don't have any force on your own. You have to report to somebody before the final person will tell you it can't be done. I went to one of our very top government offices, and what I heard was that Minister of Labour is always very quick to enter into agreement when he knows that they are not possible. So sometimes he is doing it with good intention, but his colleague over there are waiting. Just go and sign and let us see who is coming to implement it. The UTAS we are talking, the U3PS, I've heard from a very high government functionary that there is no way in the world that workers dictate to government the platform within which their salaries are paid. And what we are saying, we are not saying that it is the union that are going to use those platforms to do the payment. IPs is never done. It does not come on a platter of gold. Somebody is taking good money for bringing that platform, and the unions are ready to give you free. Take it, test it, if it is better for us. Because when we went into the IPs, I know that it is not working. So we are now looking for a way that that will help the government. And it is on you sometime when you join IP, they say, yes, we've been able to recover money for government. Nothing like that. When you join IPs in the universities, for instance, now, most of the allowances workers were taking before IPs have been dropped. And you go to government and clap hand that we've been able to conserve money for you. That money is for workers. And it's part of the money that we're on strike now fighting for.
Well, the IPs has been in existence, and it's been used as a payment platform for other categories of government staff.
Yes.
And again, you ask the question yourself, if it is good enough for the larger workforce, why would the unions insist that they
it is
cannot
not
be
even
on that?
in only university system. I've heard it even in ministries. Some people are dying in silence. IPs cannot resolve the problem of there are a lot of inconsistencies there that is difficult to resolve. January this year, for instance, most of the universities were calling me. The third-party deductions have been dropped. IP did not tell anybody, they had not sent message to anybody, and the banks were waiting. You see, we were on a gift mix before IPs, and I call it a sister or younger brother to IPs. We were using it.
Okay.
For us in ASUU,
Yes.
the issue of IPPIs is more fundamental than a cut in our salary or that someone is not paid or even the third-party deductions. It is about the essence of the university itself. Prof talked about autonomy, university autonomy. There is no place in the world where a vice chancellor would have to travel distance or fly to come to Abuja to discuss with the deputy director or the desk officer in charge of his university on how salaries are either his staff are either short paid or that the vice chancellor will leave his university. Prof was a VC far back. Did he have to travel to Abuja to ask when he can employ a staff? That he cannot employ a staff, even a graduate assistant in a university, until you get clearance from the office of the accountant general? This is unheard of. It is unheard of. Look, outside the peculiarities that the universities have, we have established that IPPIs is a fraud. The office of the Auditor General of the country, Nigeria, has also identified loopholes and corruption in the IPPIs as currently being implemented. Look, initially the blackmail they wanted to throw around was that, look, lecturers want to work in 10 places, they want to work all over the place.
That was a concern about making sure that there is a tab kept on who is getting paid for what.
The NASU president just explained to you, sir. All these savings that they say they make in IPPIs, there's no savings. They stop my salary this month. My name doesn't appear on the list. His name appears. Next month, 2 names are dropped. 3 other names come up. And every month, names go down. They say they have saved money. Whose money?
Well, we'll return to other aspects. Also, the matter of infrastructure in the system and what attempts through interventions have been made. But let me come back to students, Professor. The question of students, and it's been suggested that these strikes are partly responsible for poor quality graduates that have been turned out of institutions. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think if we honestly answer the question, what's the purpose of establishing universities in the first place? What is the real purpose of government establishing universities? Is to train and produce high quality manpower. before they become high quality people, they are first of all students. Now, if student becomes the centerpiece of our relationship, we begin to see clearer where we are going. Here he said, I know wives are students, our members are students, but students, whether it's domestic or external, still students, they stand in a relationship with the institution. They pay, either by scholarship or anything, to get education. And that education in the fullest possible amount and quality. So if we must begin to say, what is the raising the tar of all of this? It is the students. We must, for whatever reason, leave allowance for continuing education. We can really demand for our economic, financial rights in whatever form, but not to render the object of our employment, object of our relationship, really a victim. So I'm asking that the university community should devise a way which they can insulate the learning population from industrial relationships. We can still continue to fight for our rights, for our better thing, but we must never take our eyes off those students whom we have taken probably silent or loud oath to groom and make responsible citizens of the future. I think it's one of the things that I will challenge our colleagues to begin to look. What exactly is the locus of the learning population, whether they are children or adults, wives or students? What exactly do we owe them? And must we, in catching one, lose the other? Is there no way we can find a middle ground in which neither the students nor our own colleagues lose? In a war, there must be, not a war really, in an argument, there must be losers and winners, but when you lose some, you win some, you protect the real reason the type of being in existence. I think I'm concerned about that. And when you look at the situation in our country, it's really, really pathetic that if it brings me to the issue of proliferation of private universities. I'm sorry, I will not be going along with doing that because I'm worried. I'm a promoter of private universities, but we are accomplices. The academic community in the universities are accomplices, especially our professors. They are the ones that bring their names. We put them on the paper for ASUU and say we have this staff. When we get the certificate, we get the license. The owner of the institution charges fees, but he gets his own core people from the same university we're trying to protect to come and promote it. So you cannot ask your people to grow an institution and say at the same time you don't want to exist. So I think we must look at our relationship. What government will not have to and will not close private universities. Promoters of private universities see it as investment, it can be moral, it cannot be immoral. But if they don't have accomplices, that they don't have a pool of university people who come to prop up this this charade that they call universities, it will not come. And I think I will advise that we take that out of the negotiation with government. We place it within ourselves. No person should go and do that. You know you cannot enforce it because they ask for human rights, the right to practice, the right to do whatever it is. So these are the delicate areas that we must really examine rather than taking dog-in positions in negotiation. I think we must also take that into account.
Part of the issues would be the infrastructure in these institutions, and the government would easily say, well, we've put in so much, and 1.7 trillion naira is by no means a drop, even though it still would not solve all the problems in the system, but that is believed to show some form of commitment. But it would seem that all these do not form part of the core negotiations, do they?
They do. And, you know, the last two film clips from Kaduna and Enugu, all those structures that the camera was focusing on, where I can tell you, the product of the struggle of our union. They are products of our struggle. Prof doesn't want us to talk about Ilorin, but even Ilorin had benefited from our struggle. So when people talk about students as if our strike is aimed at undermining students or like we're causing them to suffer, the lecture rooms, the examination halls that they sit in are as a result of our struggles. The libraries across the country are as a result of our struggle. Each time ASUU embarks on a strike and government is forced to release funds for the revitalizing, for the infrastructure that you're talking about. Each time we go on strike and funds are released, something comes up in the university. Students use those things. Hostels are built. The needs assessment. The needs assessment was also a part of our struggle. We pushed government to do it. Government did not on its own decide to take an assessment of what the structures are in Nigerian university. So we fight. When we embarked on this time, we agreed that as students, you would certainly be sad when you are not in school. On the day we declared the strike, we drove to the into the University of Lagos. As we were driving into the University of Lagos, students were having matriculation exercise. On that Friday, we declared an action. They were taking pictures, they were eating and drinking with their parents. We felt it. It's not as if we're heartless. We understand, we felt it. But our struggle has brought in more to improve the standard of education these students get from the universities than if we were not struggling. Look, sir, 1.3, 1.7, 1.5 trillion naira in Nigeria is big. It's big money, we agree. We sat down, the Minister of State for Education would bear me witness. We sat down with government last year when we suspended the strike in December 2020. We sat down with government. We said how much is left of the needs assessment of the 220 billion that was supposed to be released. We agreed with government that they cannot release 220 billion. They asked us to provide for them a schedule to discuss on how best they can release these funds. We went back. By the next day, we had worked out a template on how government can release this money over time. We agreed on these timelines with the Minister of Labour, with the representative of the Minister of Labour in attendance, Minister of Education in attendance, Office of the Accountant General, Ministry of Finance, Budget Office. They were all there. We agreed on a template because we know that releasing 200 billion naira was huge for government, and we understand that the situation is tough. But even that template that we produced and discussed and agreed with them, they have not kept to it.
We'll take a short break here. When we return, the phone lines will be open, and that means you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
What if you stumble into an opportunity at your own convenience? What if you stumble into a friendly stranger and all you had to do is wave? What if you unlock the opportunity of a lifetime with this new acquaintance in a branded shirt? What if all you have to do is your favorite things in your favorite places? Shopping at the mall, having a weekend getaway, or going to the movies? Your future is right outside your door. We are closer than you think.
Ever-busy ancient city of Onitsha is a commercial hub with millions of commuters seamlessly linking other states daily for business, leisure, and other purposes. To upscale its road network, the construction construction of a 1.6-kilometer long second Niger bridge, including a 10.3-kilometer highway furnished with other infrastructure, has been in motion by the federal government. This project will ease congestion on the existing 56-year-old Onitsha bridge and boost the economic capacity of the state as it easily connects to other parts of the country. The completion of the world-class second Niger bridge Onitsha will be one of the many proud moments of the state, its people, Nigerians, and foreign investors. Onitsha, which hosts the largest market in Africa, is geared up to boast of an impressive road network. Once again, these moments are made alive by the federal government, and it is deserving of all the applause.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. And this segment, the phone lines will be open. You can call in and be part of the discussion. But as we say every Tuesday, if you do call in and your call gets through, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we always encourage you to go straight to the point. Don't bother too much about the greetings. Just a mere hello is enough. You can't dwell too long on those greetings, and the lines might be erratic. So we encourage you to go straight to the point, ask your question or make a comment. I guess we'll respond to such issues as you might raise. So let's watch out for those lines. It'll be on your screens, and let's keep the calls coming through. Now let's return to some of these issues. The question of provision of infrastructure in the institutions, and the government says, well, it has demonstrated faith and taking the bull by the horn by creating intervention funds for some of these things, and they're working. The ASUU Deputy President, Vice President, says it's the result of protests and actions and strikes. But must everything come out of these protests?
Yeah, I hope that is the question you throw to the government side. Because if ordinarily you do what you are expected to do, workers will not go to protest.
Okay.
It's not, as I said before, that we are not strike mongers.
Okay.
As we speak today, I have my first son is doing masters in law. Is at home. The second one is supposed to go for service. Is at home. The third one is at home. So all of us are feeling it.
Okay.
It has become the last resort. And like I was about saying before, if you look at our demand, the demand of joint action of NASU and SANU, we're talking about state government that the VP here just mentioned very briefly. You see, you need to go round and you see some state governors will release 20 million and say, VC, it is left for you. Workers are being owed up to 10 months, 8 months. Then how do you expect them to give the best even to the student?
Okay, let's go quickly to the phones. We have Nasir, who's our first caller tonight. Nasir calling in from Abuja. Hello, Nasir, go ahead.
Good afternoon, all of you. Please, I want to contribute to what you people are saying. Yeah, it's a very interesting program. Actually, this deals with the progress of this country, actually. And I just want to plead to the community, to this platform, that they should please help and do something possibly for this. Our young people should come back to school. They should please plead with these people. Let them please graduate, please. Let them please come back to their studies. And anyhow, please let them try. We have been trying a lot. We have been seeing what you people have been doing, really. It's appreciating. We really appreciate what you are doing, but please help this situation, please. Let these boys come back to school, please.
All right. Thank you, Nasser. Okay. Well, you had the man, and over time, Nigerians, parents, interested groups have all joined in asking, ASUU, NASU, SANU, the government to sheath their swords and come back to the negotiating table in the interest of the future.
But of course, you have to even give it to us, because we have tried. For instance, at our level, we met with government on 20th October 2020 and endorsed an agreement. Nothing was done. We met again on 25th of February 2021. What are we today? We are in April. Nothing is done. So, before we went, we decided to say we are going on this track. We wanted to government, look, because we have refused to do A, B, C, D, we are trying to do this. So, like I told you before, up till now, nobody has even called us and said, come, what is it again? Let us even talk. Nobody. So that is why I say that it's like even they are interested in the strike. Did you know that they interviewed the Minister of Information that this ASUU strike at the university, did you discuss it at the fair? He said it is not everything that you bring to fair, which means our educational system is not important to us. So you can go on strike. So all that we are after now is what comes next year. It's not your strike. But it's very unfortunate. If I tell you today that professors for the academics, deputy bursars, deputy registrars in the university, the money they think university is taking more is the money that drivers take in some organization.
Okay. Back to the phones. We have Kelvin calling in from Delta. Hello, go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, first of all, let me appreciate you for the program. And what I really want to say is, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, all I want to say is, actually, I appreciate you for the program and all your guests there. They actually spoken right. Sincerely speaking, to me as a person, as a Nigerian citizen, who I graduated years ago. And what I want to say about this issue, the federal government and those in charge, they shouldn't play politics with this issue of ASUU and so on. They should do what they have agreed with ASUU and let them go back to the campuses so that those who need to graduate should graduate, and those who need to come in afresh as students should come in. So please, to me, the federal government should do all these things. They shouldn't play politics with it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Gavin from Delta. Again, another appeal for a solution to be found. Yes, bro.
I think, I'm not preempting this discussion. I've always entertained an independent idea of mine, which I thought, if considered in real good spirit and genuine interest of this country, we who are in Nigeria, when a government came into power, and the minister looked at the huge quantum of external debts and all kind of debt that we had, and thought that we cannot possibly go ahead into the future with this. And she took it upon herself to take the permission of our principal to do debt relief or debt forgiveness. Is it not possible that we look at the quantum of the money in dispute, and in genuine patriotic spirit, work out a debt forgiveness? Say, look, this is the minimum we can take. That one you can take. It takes a lot. I know the leaders will be on real hot seat if they ever suggested that. But I think the mark of leadership is to take very unusual actions in very unusual times. I believe in our education system in this country, we are facing a very difficult and unusual situation. We must consider unusual solutions. And when I think about it, my own private thought, that we can do debt forgiveness in our academic level. We can also look at what part of this burden of debt that government is owing to the unions can be negotiated, so that once we agree on the minimum, we encourage government to pay off what there is and never to sin again.
We have Nkwacha calling in from Owerri. Hello, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, please, the topic of discussion is very interesting. Every concerned Nigerian is worried. All of us are worried to watch this incessant culture of strike every now and then. It will appear that it has become the norm. So what we are just appealing is for government to do the needful, and at the same time, the lecturers and the NASU and all of them ASUU should please consider the Nigerian system, the educational system, the suffering of parents and the suffering of the students as well. I want us to look critically at the origins of this strike. Let us take from early 90s, for instance, when Babangida made a very holistic arrangement to ensure some level of liberty to all our lecturers and the system. I remember that they allowed something like consultancy services and massively increased the salaries of the university system workers and the lecturers. But that consultancy, I remember they mentioned that part of the process will be used taking care of the infrastructure, part of it will be used to take care of the students, the lecturers' welfare. But most of the time, it doesn't appear that anything is being said about that or something is being done about it. And I want us also to look at other sectors of the economy and then other workers. For instance, yes, the government might not be responding critically to the needs of the universities, but we know there are other critical sectors. Like, for instance, the same federal government has been needs many cases and many times in addressing the needs of our security infrastructure. For instance, security trust funds were established and nothing has been done about it. And what I'm trying to say is that how would the lecturers feel if you will go on strike for 8 months and then a policeman goes on strike for 8 months for his own needs that are not met? So what we're trying to say is, please, let us be a bit reasonable about these things and have the other contributor saying that while they were driving into the University of Lagos, they found out that they were having their matriculation and the whole thing was disrupted. And we now find out also that critically, you find out that most of the time, after all said with the federal government, it appears there's no cohesive administrative control in the university system. Lecturers are just, they appear to be on their own, chasing foreign, what do you call it? Programs abroad, leaving the system unattended to. And then any little thing, you go on strike. It's not fair to both government and the lecturers themselves. The other contributor is saying how his own children were affected too. All of us are concerned. It won't all go well for 8 years, for 7 years, something, a program that is supposed to run for just 4 years or 3 years lingers to 8 years. It doesn't serve all of us properly, please. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much. Contributions.
But yes. I think I would like to say something about what last caller Wokocha said. We appreciate what you said, but you know, when you say every little thing ASUU goes on strike, every little thing, education is not a little thing by any stretch of imagination. Education is a very serious thing. It's the core, it's the basis for our growth and progress in this country. When we go on strike, it would have been after very tedious, strenuous efforts at averting a strike. Before we went on this strike, we had met over 8 times with the Minister of Labor. Maybe once or twice. Once with the Minister of Education. We have met with NIREC, the Sultan and the President of Khan. We have met about 3 times with the Chief of Staff to the President. At each of these meetings, they have assured us of efforts they are making to make sure we don't get to this point where we are now. And none of them have come true. None of them. On all the issues that we've taken to them. It's promises, promises, and promises. What do you do? Strike it. Look, going on strike in ASUU is one of the most cumbersome things to do. You go to your branches. You vote at the branch level. People vote against the strike. You come, you report. You have to go back again. You know, it's not as if we just wake up one day and decide that we're going to embark on an action. No, it's not like that. And when we meet with, if people don't listen to the Sultan and the President of Khan, who else would they listen to? Who else would they listen to? The President of Khan and the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence, asked us in November to shelve our action and that they were going to reach out to government. We shelved our action. We came back and met them again in January. We told them that we are going to have a meeting and we're not sure what would happen at this meeting. Can you please do something to avert what we have right now? They promised us that they will do it. The Sultan and the Khan President visited Mr. President, General Buhari, in the villa and raised our issues with him. The President directed the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Labor, and the Chief of Staff to address our issues. As I'm sitting down on this table now, close to 2 months, 3 months after the President has instructed that that be done, we have not met with these offices. So what else are we going to do?
Negotiations still go on all the same, right? Okay, well let's go back to the phones. Ada calling in from Jos. Good evening, Ada. Go ahead.
Hello, and your guest there. It's Ada calling from Jos Plateau State. Let me tell you something. I'm also an educationist. The universities are standing today because over 80% of the students there, that is the lecturers there, their wards and students are studying in those universities. If not, the university would have been just like what has happened in the primary school level and secondary school level today in Nigeria. You know, the government of the day, they have refused to give education its pride of place. That is just the problem. It's not a question of they don't have the money. I don't believe that. I don't want to buy that idea. And anybody who is saying that ASUU, why are they always going on strike? They're not being fair to the students. As if ASUU, I'm happy the analysis there. They themselves, some of them are even students there as well. They are studying there, and their children and what are also studying there. You know. So and then they say that what else do you want them to use? What other instruments? An agreement that started since 2009, if I'm not mistaken. And then they said they renegotiated it, renegotiation. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing to renegotiate. Let the federal government sort out ASUU and every other union on campus. Because if you finish with the academic staff and you don't sort out the non-academic and the rest of them, you are back to square one. Because it's teamwork, you know. So and then why is federal government, why are they more interested in establishing more universities? And the irony of it all is even private universities, which cannot even take in, there's no space to admit the students of the poor because of the high fees there. You know, so why are they interested in that? It's just a way of saying ASUU can go to hell, you know, with their strike. Then they establish universities where their children will go to or go abroad. So unless there's a legislation, you know, preventing wards or children of those public office holders from going abroad to study, especially for courses that are here, we will not make a headway. because they won't be interested in sorting it out. It's just like what is happening in the health sector today. What are we talking about? Let me tell you something. ASUU should not fall off this strike. There's no way they can't be going back and forth. It's better for them to continue like that until they sort it out. This evening I heard the news where the MD is appealing to them that they should go back. They are looking into it. For how long will it take them to look into it?
Okay.
Just ask me. If they cannot sort it out, when will they sort it out? Let's be fair to them. Now it's leading to a lot of criminal, action. You see some of the students are out there getting involved in drugs and the rest of them.
Well, Ada, just one question.
You know,
if you can hear me, Ada.
Makes work for idle hands. FD should go and pay. Let them pay. If it means stopping the first subsidy, let them stop it. The fraud in the first subsidy, 4 trillion. Let them stop it and pay out to sort out all of them.
Ada, if you can hear me, just one question. Since you have stated that strike should not be called off, there. But well, I believe she's still watching this program, and she might like to call back in, because I'd wanted to ask this question. If you say the strike should go on, so the entire system should be shut down for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Would anyone suggest that?
And I'm equally anxious to hear from either your side or from other those who are reaching us on phone. Tell us, what do you want us to do in this instance? When you are following up something from 2009, you started from 2 years ago, a year ago, you give them 1 month, and what else do you want us to do? Let us know.
Prof has spoken about a middle way somewhere in between. And again, from the other side, another perspective here is you are at a period in a country where there are numerous other areas that are begging for attention. Should all the resources available to the state be channeled to only one part of it? That's another argument some people have raised when they call for a middle ground in order to resolve this issue, and not for a strike in perpetuity, as Ada would suggest.
You know, sir, this discussion about, that there are so many other sectors, all of them competing for attention, and that education is...
That's not detracting from the importance of education anyway.
Yeah, it's not. But we've heard this argument year in, year out. The Etsunupe report, which Prof knows about, in 1997, suggested that 30% of our budget should be allocated to education. The Vision 2010 report of the same year, 1997, suggested 26% of our budgetary allocation go to education. The Gray-Longe report, the Babs-Fafunwa report, at each of these times, this argument about so many competing demands in the country, those arguments have always been there. And it was a product of, a well thought out, discussion and the outcome of that discussion. So we're not oblivious of other sectors that are there in this country. But rather than come close to what all these previous committees have suggested, government is in the reverse gear. So budget will be 7.1% this year, 5.6% next year, 4.7% next year, the year before it. So they are certainly not taking education seriously, or it's not a priority.
Okay, that's this other aspect, which of course, all right, okay, all right. We have a call coming through. Solomon from Kwara State. Hello, go ahead. Solomon, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. I would like to end the program by saying, I'm considering the word from
Oh dear. We can't really get you, Solomon. Maybe you'd have to try again. You have to call back and see whether it will be a bit clearer than it is now. Okay. Well, Solomon, if you can, try and call back. Perhaps the line would be clearer so we can get to hear you. Okay, so back to the other issues we're trying to raise. Well, this has come up in the course of discussions, the principle of no work, no pay. Some Nigerians have said, well, if ASUU continues to insist that the only way to get about this is to go on strike, would they believe it is moral to still be paid for work not done?
My core duties in the university is to teach, to conduct research, and offer community service.
You're not teaching now?
Yes. So you cannot
But are you
say,
conducting research?
Of course. Just 2 weeks ago, our National Strike Coordinating Committee, ASUU, gave permission to people across this country, our members, who sought permission to continue with their strike in research work during this strike.
Speaking of research, we've seen interventions from TED Fund and other such institutions. Do they count for anything?
They should. And I think they are. Look, I know that we perhaps need, as we go on, to focus our research towards maybe the industries, the factories around us, based on the needs of our society and our community. That needs to be done. TED Fund that gives grants for this research, just I think within the last 3 years was when TED Fund seriously took the issue of research, when Professor Bogoro was Executive Secretary of TED Fund, and it moved from about 3 billion to recently, when he left, to about 7.5 billion naira. That is the amount allocated for research across this country, and research is going on all around. I think that we haven't seen the impact as we should. One, because the funds are grossly inadequate, and two, we probably need to refine and get, more, maybe focus on certain areas, science and technology, maybe things like that. And I believe that we'll get to that point, but certainly research is going on in Nigerian universities. Look, in the University of Jos, where I work, we have grants both from TED Fund, from within the university, and internationally. And there are several publications and useful outcomes, milestones that we've achieved as a result of this research. And it is all over. University of Lorry announced recently how much they got from research. And so it's going on. And so when people say we are not teaching, and so is it morally right to get our salaries? We are not. Teaching was not the only thing we were employed to do in the university. And by the way, even when the students return, if you stop halfway in a first semester, when you come back, you're not going to move to the second semester because you have spent the time already. You go back to where we are. So work is always done.
Okay. Right. We have Wisdom calling in from Rivers. Wisdom, go ahead.
Sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Wisdom, go ahead.
The Nigerian government, they really need to consider the importance of the educational system in Nigeria. The students are really suffering. When situations like this arises, many ugly situations happen. Most of these students, they get involved in heinous crimes, which at times can take their life. some of the females get pregnant, and so on and so forth. And these children are really suffering. The federal government need to consider the importance of the educational sector and meet the demands of ASUU. It is for the betterment of our children and the betterment of the nation. Thank you.
All right.
Yes. In addition to what he said, no work, no pay. You taking another call?
No, go ahead.
No work, no pay. Are we ruling out the fact that workers have the right to go on strike? What is important is that due process must be followed. If you don't follow due process and you go on strike, then you can invoke no work, no pay. So now if we have this agreement and it is now on your table, I have done all that is needful on my part, and you disregard everything, and now we are trying to say I will withhold your salary. Then my members, when we went for meeting, they say no work, no pay, no pay, no work.
Let's consider other scenarios where all this is hanging on. For instance, you heard the minister. Unfortunately, we've still not been able to get him back on Zoom. He joined us via Zoom. But in his opening comments, you heard him say, it's not going to just work out that way to solve all the issues here. So engagement is a continuous process. Now look at that against the backdrop of the economic recession, global recession occasioned by COVID-19, the price of oil in the international markets. And I'm saying this knowing that still to a large extent, this is the source of Nigeria's revenues. With all that, dwindling resources, and recently with the war that's going on in Ukraine, that has also affected so many. So for many governments, they're having to adjust and readjust. So if this administration says to you, in the light of all this put together, it's not possible to accede to all these demands at this time, what would you say?
Sir, how does the war in Ukraine affect signing an agreement that you have freely entered into? You
may have been signed and the situations have changed. This is where we're going to.
Look, we are asking that an agreement that we have discussed, we have concluded, be signed. Implementation is another thing, and we'll get to that. The agreement itself, the financial implication was discussed in the presence of all government agents. That's one. How does the dwindling financial state of the nation or even the global economy, how does it affect accepting a platform that is a substitute for what you are paying billions of naira?
We have already discussed that currently there's still some controversy, albeit from the ASUU, from the union side, they say it's perfect. A government agency has raised concerns, so we'll follow both and see how
this same government passed an executive order that should encourage local content and that we should produce things locally. It is called Executive Order 005 also. They are the ones that have produced it. These phones that we wear, phones that we have, each time there is an upgrade. There is no software that is 100% perfect. None is 100%. So if they have scored us 99.3 and they are waiting that it must be 101% before they can let it go, I don't see how those non-financial things, in fact, it's going to save them some money.
We've got a couple of reports more to go, and this one is from Ado-Ekiti and it's by Kola Adebobuyi.
It is no longer news that the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has embarked on industrial actions for several weeks now and have pledged to continue until government meet their demands. This is taking its toll on university education across the country and Ekiti State inclusive, which some stakeholders believe it is not in the interest of young Nigerians who desire quality education. Lack of interest in the educational system, increase in immorality and crimes are some of the issues raised by respondents as some precarious effects of the recurring ASUU strike. Like the popular saying, an idle hand is the devil's workshop.
A continuation of this strike by the ASUU is not a thing that will be ongoing well for this developmental and educational development of this country.
It has an adverse effect on the educational system of the children and even the country at large. It is now becoming part of the system of education in Nigeria that ASUU strike is part of must occur one time or the other. It wasn't like this. It will take a long time before the government and the ASUU come to a round table and settle the issue.
Those who believe that the effects of ASUU strike have been devastating on the Nigerian university system by watering down the quality of education offered to students, as some of them do perform poorly in examinations upon resumption from prolonged strike, aside extending the period a students ought to spend in school and the attendant cost implication.
The lecturer on their own side as well, they should put human face into all these bandwagon effects. Some people are facing, they are experiencing it, and beside that, the rate at which the students supposed to finish from the school is reducing. At least instead of you to spend 3-4 years for a course, you end up spending 8 years, and at the end of the day, when you come out to seek employment, your age must have far above the age slated for employment in this country.
There are a lot of problems that this crisis has caused within, and even though the parents again, there's no money. You have children at home who will be eating.
Although some of the germane demands of the university lecturers bordering on the recurring issue of underfunding of the education sector, which has an impact on the quality of infrastructure, instructional materials and research, it is the consensus of respondents that the Academic Staff Union of Universities should explore other viable means of protest than strike due to the enormous damage it does to the education system. In Ado-Ekiti, Kola Adebobuyi.
All right, and yet another report, this time coming in from Asaba by Austin Edemodu.
Before we came back home, we were in the middle of writing tests. Now, because of the whole strike, we're at home now. We don't have the zeal to read again because I have a cousin that's about to write jam. She doesn't see the need to write jam because the school is not in section, so she cannot. There's no need writing the jam because obviously she's sitting down at home. And our mates that are in private school, like my classmates now, we graduated from secondary school together. They're already done, and I've seen. I just recently entered 300 level when I was supposed to be in 400 level because of the strike.
Stella Agaris worries sum up the challenges many university students are facing in Nigeria due to protracted ASUU strike since 2009. ASUU has so far embarked on strike actions on 8 different occasions. Early this year, ASUU embarked on 100 days warning strike over agreement it reached with the union in 2009. Some of the demands include funding for revitalization of tertiary institutions, payment of outstanding end allowances, renegotiation of 2009 agreements, and implementation of university transparency and accountability solution, amongst others. Just like the saying goes, when 2 elephants fight, the grass suffers. And the deadlock is really taking toll on parents and the society at large.
A child that goes into school that expected to come out in 4 years' time, you see him or her graduating in 6 years' time. It's really unfair, and the parents are really not happy about that. There's no money, and making them to pay extra. I mean, they're not finding it funny.
Immediate consequence is that the children are at home, and being at home, they are exposed to danger. So many of them may be involved in this Yahoo business, courtesan, robbery, and that in turn affects the social standards of the community.
It is almost more than 2 months into the current strike by ASUU. Is there any compromise in sight?
When you have an agreement, that agreement should stand. If federal government has an agreement with ASUU and they all appended their signatures, I do not see reasons why the federal government should renege. But that does not mean that ASUU should not understand somehow. To me, if ASUU is looking for, let me say, 10 naira, and the federal government had agreed they were going to pay them 10 naira, and after the period of agreement it was not done, well, there could be a kind of renegotiation. Fine. Why not give them 75% of what they're looking for? And I'm sure ASUU will agree.
I'm tired. I'm tired of this whole strike thing. I want to go back to school.
The academic future of millions of Nigerian students like Stella Agara could be in serious jeopardy unless urgent steps are taken by the parties involved to save the nation's ivory tower from total collapse. I'm Austin Edemodu, NTA News.
All right, Professor Oba Abdurrahim.
Yes.
When we started this discussion, you didn't want University of Ilorin brought into it, but I said at some point we would ask how it was that University of Ilorin to a greater extent remained insulated from these constant strikes in the system. Is there a solution somewhere? Is there something that can be borrowed from that?
There is always a solution to all problems, so long as there is goodwill on all sides. The University of Ilorin was not an unknown magic. It was simply human beings recognizing the frailties and weaknesses of other human beings and the system, and preferring the humaneness over the rigidity of the system. We had to have roundtable understanding with the majority, overwhelming majority of the people. We agreed that it is the right of every Nigerian child to have education, a university education, for instance. That's why government is spending money. We understood also that we, as citizens of Nigeria, must make that possible. And there must be sacrifices that we make. And at that time, we did embark on some very painful sacrifices. Ultimately, it paid out and paid off. Whether it can be recommended to anybody else, there are no two systems that can be replicated. Individuals operating in environments are differ from one another. I think at the time the University of Ilorin did what it did, it was a very lucky moment for us. You cannot reproduce the kind of quantum and quality of human beings that took part in that exercise to now. So I think that's why I just want to avoid comparing one child to the other. Once we have a success story, anybody can then go back and find out what exactly was the real tenor of that success. What was the ingredient that was used in achieving that success? I'm very proud that associated with the Ilorin success. I wish that the Nigerian institutions would adopt the same, but you cannot have your wish all the time. But I still say that must be ways of resolving crisis. I've asked for two things in these discussions. The most important one, everybody seems to have dug in its own position. Government doesn't want to move, the unions don't want to move. But I think, like I said, let's agree in the interest of the common investment of the people in education. Shall we consider, okay, these are the agreements we've done, these are achievable, these are not. Let government be really frank and honest. And that these are achievable and these are not achievable in view of the economic circumstance. And let's now consider whether we're going to write off those that are not achievable and then say those that are achievable must be implemented and bring Nigerians to witness in this matter. But to remain, to dig in and remain rigid and say we are not going to move, it's not going to help matters. So government must consider about revising its own offer. Sometimes government make offers that are very impossible because of the quality of people sent to the negotiating table, like my colleague said. The quality of people you are sent to a negotiation is very, very important. But I think that's one of the very weaknesses that the Nigerian government suffers. You send an assistant director to an international negotiation. This assistant director is also subordinate to a deputy director, who's also deputy to and while in the middle of the meeting, there's a call. Go and bring August child in the school. Go and bring it. And well, within that time, he has lost trend of what is happening and reports only what he knows, which is going to be very defective memory indeed. So I think we must improve on the quality of people we send to negotiations, but more importantly, we must be not honest about implementing whatever is being agreed. If your representative comes with an unimplementable agreement, and let the people know, and they will saying, yes, this agreement has been signed, but this is not implementable. Let's sit down again directly, because at the point of talking to a minister, you have now graduated from that of assistant director. You might actually want to overlook the superiority of the status of the minister and the authority that he has over negotiations. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, it's a matter of a spirit of give and take, and we must consider, like I said at the beginning, the situation of that child in Kolemotosh's drama, which is called The Combat. The child must not be made to suffer when the parents are quarreling. So we must find some way of doing it. And I said one of the ways of doing it is consider debt forgiveness. Look at those parts of the agreements that cannot be implemented because of economic reasons. Let's know and let our people show magnanimity and say, for this, yes, but for any other one, this is our stand. And Nigerians will understand with them that they've come quite a substantial way in giving a chance for the Nigerian child to have access to our university education and the quality which their parents envisage.
Dr. Piwuna, yes. Well, it's obvious from all that's been said on this program that the government isn't happy, the unions are not happy, the lecturers themselves are not happy. So there's a common ground here. You would want this issue resolved once and for all and move on. From the point of ASUU, what is the best way now forward?
Well, we're engaging government and we're always ready to discuss with them. We've never turned down any invitation of government, and like everybody here said, we've always reached a point where we agree to something. And honestly, for me, it is not so much as the rank of the persons that come to meetings. It's the dishonesty. The dishonesty of government and its agents generally. You don't come for a meeting and something is agreed to and you will not implement it and you agreed to sign. So it's a problem of character. It's a problem of character. The character of government and those that represent government have always fallen short of that you expect of leaders. If we're available, we discussed for 4.5 years with Babala Kinsan, SAN. 4.5 years. We discussed for about 3 months or 4 months with Professor Muzali Jibril, and we agreed to something. For the government team, from 21st of May 2021, for the government team to get back to its principle and say, this we agree to, this we don't think we can, this thing that Prof is saying, this we agree to, this we cannot do, we can go halfway here. From May 21st last year to April 19th, it's 20th now, this year, government has not been able to get back to us on what they can do and what they cannot do. So what do you do with such?
Dr. Bakulo Hassan, I suppose the same question would go to you. What with Sano? Now you're speaking in the capacity of being both national president and
NASU and Sano.
Yes.
Yes, I want us to note that there is at no point that government was coerced into signing any agreement. And I want us to know that there is no time you go to tell government what we need is 500 billion and they will not say write it. No. Whatever we put down is a product of negotiation. Now, looking at the way forward,
Right.
you see, accepting responsibility matters a lot in this struggle. We had similar problem with the VP here, where the Minister of Labour will tell us that I'm only trying to do my best, that even your main ministry, your employer who's supposed to be here, is not here. Now that we have problem, Ministry of Education is denying us. They are no longer our employer. So now how can we have a way forward when, as I told you, after 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks of being on strike, nobody said, come and let us see the way forward. So that is why this program is good. Talk to them. If they want way forward, even in the face of war, you come to table to resolve issues.
Well, at this point, we would assume that negotiations and discussions are still on the table, and that the unions are ready to go a step further than where we are now. Most of the callers we had talked about doing things in the interest of moving the country forward. And it's not a question of who blinks first now. That is the case on someone claiming victory here. But perhaps on a lighter note, we might say, shouldn't what has been happening all along indeed be a subject of deep research by the academics?
And the results.
Well, you're right. People have said that to us. People have asked us, why are you always on strike? Can't you get another way of going on, so alternative to strike? Well, is there any way you can draw attention of government? You know,
could maybe fashion some other innovative way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are open to suggestions. We don't know everything. We are researchers. We don't know everything. And if there's anybody that thinks what we're doing is wrong, or that there's another way we can do it, so we can have a look at it. We're ready to look at it. You forget that in this country, with all due respect, sir, there are so many former vice chancellors, parents, grandparents, former ministers, former senators who were in the academics, who understand our problem. What are they doing about this problem? Because all of us have agreed that it's our common problem.
Presidents who were academics.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes, they are. Yeah, so they've been in government. They've been out of government. What are they doing about this problem? This struggle that we're fighting, sir, this struggle that we're fighting is a struggle for parents. It's a struggle for students. It's a struggle for all Nigerian students, every Nigerian. Okay. But each time we go on strike, it's like, why?
All right. As we always say, no one program can extensively cover all grounds on any particular issue. And it's the same with this one. And we must leave this conversation here and hope that it continues at a greater level to resolve the issues at stake. But for now, I would like to thank our guests who have been here all along with us. Let me say thank you to Dr. Christopher Piwura, Vice President ASUU from the Department of Psychiatry, University of Jos, Nigeria. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to Dr. Makulu Hazan, National President, Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, and Chairman of JAC, the Joint Action Committee of NASU SANU.
Thank you for being here, my brother.
And for Professor Shoaibu Oba Abdurrahim, OFR, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ilorin, and former Executive Chairman, Federal Character Commission. Sincere thanks to you for sharing your wealth of experience with us in this program.
Welcome.
Well, we should also say thank you to the Minister of State for Education, Honorable Chukwuemeka Nwajuba. Unfortunately, issues of connections. We just had him briefly at the start of this program. We tried very much to reconnect with him via Zoom, and that wasn't possible. But again, this conversation will continue at another level. And so for all those who phoned in, would like to say thank you for being part of the program. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.